much did you make in your last batch? Did you make any profit? Now, to answer this question, we need to go back the times and walk the whole journey again. But now asking the first question is, what was the expenses which were incurred? If you do that, we'll be able to determine if we were well in business or not in business. We have seen the entire journey of rearing day-old chicks until maturity, and recently we were actually able to clean our own poultry farm. Now, yet again, the main questions or the major questions I've received so far is, how much did you make from that investment? While other people will go a step ahead and ask, how much do I need to invest? If it was worth it, if I was able to make a return, did you make a loss? Did you make a profit? Those are some of the key things people are asking. And I agree, because poultry farming as a business, you need to determine if it's worth it or it's not worth it. Now, to be able to answer these questions, we need to go back in time. Since the very first day we brought in our day-old chicks, we need to be able to scrutinize every shilling, every coin which was spent on the whole project. We're going to go to our records and be able to see one by one how much did we spend in to be able to sell our chicken. After that, we are going to do something we call cost-benefit analysis, and this is what is going to allow us to see if at all this venture making sense. And I believe by doing this, it's going to help you as an aspiring farmer or someone who would want to be an investor in the future, if it's making sense or it's not making sense. That's why we need to do cost-benefit analysis. I know it sounds like a foreign term, but honestly, it's just trying to scrutinize your cost and trying to understand where did this cost go and what was the return of this investment. And I believe by doing this, you'll be able to make a decision if you should be able to go to farming or not. So to be able to understand this, we are going to use a financial track record analysis, and as you can be able to see on my projection on my screen, we have a column for revenue as well for expenses and an income. Now, at the end of the day, the number we are determined when you're doing the cost-benefit analysis is this number on income. Now, you're going to subtract your expenses from the revenue, that is the income, and you'll be able now to see if you are able to make either profit or the loss. So the first order of business, we are going to start with expenses. Go to the first row. But before that, we can now be able to see this batch for production, and this the whole total expenses is for 511 birds. I know you're wondering, well, where did 511 birds come from? And all along you've been mentioning 465. Well, so when we did the purchase, we ordered 465 birds, and apparently that month Kenchik were doing promotions, so they ended up adding up extra number. Now, in regards to expenses, the first item was purchase of day
old chicks. Now we ordered 465, which we paid for 44,175. Now apparently that month, and of course being a loyal client, Kenchik were doing promotions. So we ended up getting 46 birds extra. I mean, it's no joke, guys, but that is such a sweet deal, I tell you. It was, wow. It was just amazing and I loved it. So that's where you can now be able to see. But now this number, we are now using 511 because it's now the total consumption of what was used for all these birds. Now the second item we bought, feeds. And when I think about feeds, most of the times, sometimes my heart sinks. But of course, that's a story for another day. But for this particular bath, we used 26 bags. Wow, it's unbelievable, right? And that included 9 starter bags and of course 17 finisher bags. And we paid a total of 104,240 Kenyan shillings. And that's a huge number, honestly, and you'll be able now to understand when we say sometimes feed is one of the biggest costs in poultry farming. Now you understand. Now the third items we paid was vitamin and vaccines. And when I talk about vitamins, I'm talking about the chick start. I'm talking about things such as what do you call them? I'm forgetting this name. Things like egosines, and of course other vitamins such as broiler boosters. In our case, we just tend to use those 3 because we only use them for a few days. And of course the vaccine. Now for the vaccine, we did administer 3 vaccine. We had 2 vaccines for Newcastle and 1 vaccine for Gumboro. And each vaccine for 500 baht usually costs us 500 Kenyan shillings, 550. So once you combine the vitamins and vaccine, we paid 5,140. Well, it's actually a slightly number, right? Now, the next commodity we paid was charcoal briquettes. And my friend, charcoal is such an expensive commodity. It's just unbelievable, right? We used 4 bags, and every bag we pay for Kenya shillings 1,200, and once you multiply that, you are able to get, we paid for 4,800 Kenyan shillings. The next item we paid was for electricity and water for a whole month, and we paid for Kenyan shillings 2,000, which is standard. Apparently, we don't brood using electricity. Now you can now be able to understand why actually the bill is very low. And for the water, again, it's not a lot because again we also tend to use water harvesting. But there's a month we actually bought water, but I'll talk about that later. And the next commodity, which again it's very essential for broilers, was wood shaving. So we paid for 10 bags, and at that time we were buying a bag of wood shaving for only Kenya shillings 80. Now for 10 bags, it means we ended up paying for 800 Kenyan shillings. The next item we bought was firewood. Now, your broilers are all grown, and you saw that during processing day, we need to pluck, or if you prefer, unpluck the feathers so that you can be able to process your broilers, you need to heat the water. So where do you heat the water? So apparently here we use firewood. So we bought one bundle for 500 Kenyan shillings, and actually we even left some use. And lastly we said we are in business. And if you're in business, what happens? You need to pay for the labor, right? So our labor for that month was approximately 13,000. So apparently, I will not go into details for this, but it's actually a standard labor wage. And we ended up paying for labor, which is 13,000 Kenyan shillings. In a layman's language, I would say for one person, it will be enough to be able to take care of 500 birds, honestly, because, well, might not seem like it's a lot of work, but it is. But apparently we are two of us because I felt I need to create employment for the local people here. So I have a farm manager and I'm also in there. So at the end of the day, to me, it's me who, well, my labor has to go down, but for him, we have to ensure that is standard in the labor market, right? Now, the next item is deliveries. Yes. Once you process your birds, you need them delivered. And who is paying? Well, consider it like a promotion for us. I mean, there's a small charge to be able to satisfy customers. And we paid for 750 Kenyan shillings. Possibly we made maybe 7 to 6 strips, and we pay standard of 50 bob and sometimes 100 bob, depending on the size and the distance of delivery. Now, this is moving along well, right? Now, the next item we paid was actually nothing. So I want us to review what was the total. I mean, you've been following me, right? What was the total of raising 511 birds? So the good news is we are just using an amazing calculator, so it's already done it for us. So from day-old chicks to feeds, vitamins, charcoal, electricity, wool shavings, firewood, labor, and deliveries, and you'll be able to see we pay 175,405 Kenyan shillings. Wow, that's a lot of money, and it's a lot actually. And now I know you're wondering, does it make sense to use all this amount for an investment, right? Just hold your horses because we are now going to the next column and we are going to now analyze our sales. And I know at this moment most of you are wondering, how many birds did you have to sell, right? And did you sell all the birds? And how much did you sell for the birds? Now, let's click on our revenue stream. There you go. It's a little money. So, on reviewing the before sales, so we sold a total number of 504 birds, and apparently this particular batch we did not take it to Mombasa. We only retailed it in Mariakani to most of our clients here, which means we ended up selling total number of 504 birds, retailing at 430 Kenyan shillings, which actually gave us 216,720. Wow, not a bad figure, right? Now, in regards for the other birds, I know you're wondering, 504 is not the whole amount of birds. You had said you had 511 birds from Kenchi. What happened? So as part of the promotions, I ended up giving 2 birds to our staff during the processing. I mean, they have worked so hard for it to make it happen. So it's not okay sometimes to charge your employees. You need to motivate them. You need to show them or celebrate the fruits of their labor. So we ended up issuing 2 of them. So of course the unit price was 0. This being covered by the company, that is Afrifama, which total number for 0. And then, my friends, we had mortalities. Yes, sometimes it's very hard to avoid mortalities. But then with proper biosecurity, you can be able to either reduce the mortalities and even be able to go to 0. I've not yet managed to go to 0%, but I'm constantly learning and be able to see in the future if I can be able to do that. For this particular batch, we had lost 5 birds. We lost 1, I remember, during the first day. I believe that was due to exhaustion of the long trip. Then we lost another bird on day 14, I think so. Then we lost another bird at around day 22. And the last 2 were actually lost during processing days. Sometimes it's just unbelievable. Like you have 1 healthy bird, the next morning you wake up, it's just normal. So that was a loss to the company. And of course, 5 birds, if you can be able to multiply, that should be able to give you, let's see, 5, you multiply by 430. Yeah, that's almost 2,150 Kenyan shillings. Now, if you do the maths, now this brings us here, right? This brings us here, and I know that's what you've been waiting for. We ended up making sales of Kenyan shillings 216,720. Now, the question again, we go back. Did we make any profit? I know at this moment, you've already been doing the maths, right? So, again, this amazing calculator help us to actually understand all these calculations within a microsecond. So let's jump to the first page, whereby we have financial track record, where we do all the analysis, and there we go. So our total revenue for the month was 216,720,000. Our expenses were 175,405 Kenyan shillings, and our income, which we can now classify as profit because, well, we don't have a negative, we ended up making a profit of Kenya shillings 41,315, right? I believe it took us maybe 35 days. Now, yes, there you have it. You have been asking for this. Yes, we did make a profit. The numbers, as you can be able to see. So we used 175,405 Kenyan shillings as our initial investment. Now this gave us a revenue of 216,720 Kenyan shillings, which made us realize a profit of 41,315 Kenyan shillings. So now, if you've been asking this question, I know now you can now be able, well, to make a conclusion if indeed poultry farming it's worth it or it's not. Now, in the future date, we'll be doing a lot of analysis now in terms of percentages, returns, so that maybe we can now be able to see how best we can be able to make sense of this, right? So there you have it. You have the numbers, and this brings us to the end of what we call cost benefit analysis. And as I said, this shouldn't scare you. Cost benefit analysis is just a bigger term, but it's simply trying to understand where did our money go to in terms of individual costs, as illustrated here in terms of the expenses, and now trying to understand if at all it makes sense, and that is illustrated using the revenue, and of course lastly is illustrated using now the whole analysis in terms to be able to see if there is profitability of all, if there was any loss. There you have it, right? Not a bad number, but still the very tiny margin in a very big ocean. I know you're wondering, why did I say that? Because I believe we can actually do a better figure than this. But how do you do that? It comes with an extra investment. It comes with a bigger number of birds. It comes with a unique strategy. And trust me, you can actually be able to drive this number as high as you can.
So let me just close the tabs. Now that we have shared my accounting work, and pretty, you can now agree I'm not really bad accountant, right? Even though accounting was very tough. It was a very tough and challenging subject back in campus for me. Or did I like working out more than attending classes? That's a story for another day. Now, we have analyzed our figures, and we have actually seen it all. And I believe I've been able to answer a key question most of you have been asking, while others have been afraid to ask: the numbers. And in business, especially in poultry business, if you don't care about the numbers as an entrepreneur, this is going to haunt you, because you need to understand your numbers so that you can try to see if at all if it's making sense for you to be in business, or if it's not making sense. So by doing this, I can actually tell you, I know as a business developer for Afrifama and as a founder as well, I know that there is a certain number I cannot actually keep at the farm, because if I keep that number, then I definitely know I'm going to make a loss. Then there is also another number I know. If I keep this certain number, I definitely would be making profit. I know that in the future, we can always be able to go deeper to analyze the concept of numbers and how it can actually work for you as a first-time farmer or someone who is interested in agribusiness. And lastly, is broiler farming worth it? Is poultry farming worth it? Numbers don't lie. And what I've done here is I've tried to put myself out there. It's very risky. Most people, most successful farmers, they will never do this. They will never tell you the truth. But yet again, since I'm not successful, and since I'm just starting out, and since I want to inspire you who is watching this, I give you my numbers so that it will now be upon you to make the decision. Because for some people, it will be say like, well, this is a low return, so maybe it's not worth it. But for some people, this can be actually a source of income for them. Now, that's why I do this. This is why I created this channel, for you to be able to understand if you can truly venture into agribusiness. Another thing, and maybe this will later come up, why should you put your accounting in public? Aren't you trying to brag? Honestly, I don't see it that way. The way I see it is as an illustration which can be able to help another young aspiring entrepreneur make their decision and be able to know what they are actually getting themselves into. I've learned from other people and I continuously do so up to date. Alright? And the last bit, as I reflect on poultry farming, for me, I feel it's a venture worth going into, but you need to understand ins and outs so that you can now be able to balance your finances, your investment, and of course to maximize the return on investment. Make sense? All right. Lastly, I know most of you are wondering now, what happened? We have walked the whole journey with you since the beginning, since you brought in your day-old chicks. We have seen you doing the vaccination. We have seen you doing the marketing. We have also seen you as well doing the processing. And lastly, we saw you doing the house cleaning and everything. And of course, today you've reviewed your numbers. Is that the end of your channel? I know that's what you're asking, right? Well, the good news is, no, this is not the end. And apparently, I'm here to last. And just like we Kenyans says, ni kuoga na kurudi soko. So apparently, we are doing some amazing work on the background, and I'll be sharing with you how we are doing it, still on poultry farming and a little bit on agribusiness. And I'm actually thinking of doing 550 birds. Now that we have analyzed the cost benefit of 511. Now in business, sometimes you need to, increase your margin a little bit, not way bigger, but a little bit, because I'm still learning just like you. And I'm actually wondering, should I do 550 birds? What do you think? Stay tuned as we see this unfold. And of course, always I'm here open. You can always ask any questions. I hope I can be able to answer it to my best knowledge as possible. And I hope that this empowers you and it has inspired you. Have a fantastic week ahead, and thank you for watching. Thank you for walking with us through this whole journey. And here at Afrifama, we value your feedback and we value your support. Bye.